welcome to Freewave TV. I'm Paige Friedman, bringing you the latest in maritime news from around the world. Today in maritime news, Europe nears deal to bring trade back to Kaliningrad. Russia creates its own liner services. The European Council agrees to include shipping in the emissions trading system. France looks to get economic aid from a major shipping company. The United States works to prioritize exports at ports. Swire Shipping expands as it acquires another shipping line. A new hydrogen fueling station will be set up at a European port. European officials are getting closer to a compromise with Lithuania, and in a matter of days, trade through Lithuania to Kaliningrad could be returning to normal. Kaliningrad depends on the railways and roads that travel through Lithuania for most of its goods. However, the sanctions imposed by Brussels cut the Russian territory off from freight transport from Russia's mainland since June 17th. The deal to exempt Kaliningrad from the sanctions could be made in early July. With many global liners significantly reducing their operations in Russia since its invasion of Ukraine, Russia has started its own liner services to link its ports to Asia. The companies Swift Line and Inteco Lines launched shipping lines for container services between the Russian Far East and China. Swift Line will provide direct connections to the port of Vostochny to the Chinese ports of Tianjin and the Taicang. Inteco Lines will have one vessel link Vostochny to Qingdao, while another will go to Ningbo. A third Russian forwarder, Modal, will connect St. Petersburg to Nhava-Sheva, the largest port in India. Over in Europe, the environment ministers in the European Council agreed to include maritime shipping emissions as part of the European Union emissions trading system. This scheme is part of the Fit for 55 package that aims to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% by 2030. In the agreement, the Council will phase in shipping until 2026. France has been close to a recession as inflation continues to rise. Yesterday, the country's finance minister targeted shipping company CGA-CGM, as well as other transport and energy companies, saying they should share a portion of their profits or potentially feel the wrath of the government. CGA-CGM recorded $18 billion in profits last year and is expected to make more this year. Reuters reported that Le Maire specifically told the shipping company to reduce the cost of transporting materials used by the construction sector. Le Maire also said that CGA-CGM and the other companies could come up with their own proposals to help France, but if they don't, the government would take their responsibilities. In the United States, 3 members of the United States House of Representatives from California proposed new legislation that would require U.S. ports to emphasize exports by giving priority to carriers that show the predominance of export bookings versus carrying empty containers or departing with unused capacity. The co-sponsors of the legislation said the American Port Access Privileges Act will guarantee fair trade for U.S. businesses and keep hard-won foreign markets accessible to California's agricultural growers as well as other exporters. Under the bill, the U.S. military, as well as Jones Act and other U.S. flagged vessels, would take priority, with exports right behind them on the list. Swire Shipping has finished the acquisition of Westwood Shipping Lines after signing an agreement for the company in April 2022. Swire said that the acquisition was granted the required regulatory approvals and the customary closing conditions were met. Swire Shipping is looking to widen its liner network and vertically integrate many of its shipping services with first and last mile services on land. Belgium's company Maritime will be setting up a hydrogen fueling station at Stockholm Norvik Port. The fueling station will give customers the option to convert to hydrogen. In the first phase, port vehicles will be converted to run on green hydrogen, with the first hydrogen-fueled terminal truck expected to be in operation in 2023. And now, here's the news making headlines around the world. Today, Russian forces fled from their strategic position in the Black Sea outpost of Snake Island in an effort of what the Russian Defense Ministry claimed it had decided to withdraw from the outcrop as a gesture of goodwill that showed Moscow was not obstructing United Nations efforts to open a humanitarian corridor allowing grains to be shipped from Ukraine's ports. This position shift acts as a major victory for Ukraine, while also granting the potential that Russia could loosen its grain export blockade, threatening to worsen global hunger. With their newest action put aside, United States intelligence agencies say they believe that Russian President Vladimir Putin still has the intention to capture most of Ukraine. In March, he changed his motive to only obtain Ukraine's Donbas area after failing to take Kyiv. They seem to believe that Russia is in a weakened state and can only accomplish its original mission if it made slow territorial gains. This opens up the potential of a long-lasting war, one that Ukrainian President Zelensky said he wanted over by the end of this year. Yesterday, before announcing their pullout from Snake Island, and a day after NATO member Turkey lifted its veto over the bid by Finland and Sweden to join the alliance, Russian President Putin said after months of intimidation that Russia would respond in kind if NATO deployed troops and infrastructure in Finland and Sweden after they joined the US-led military alliance. Putin made it clear that Russia doesn't have the same issues with Sweden and Finland as it does Ukraine, however, added that its relationship with Helsinki and Stockholm would sour over their NATO membership. He added in his conclusion that the military intervention was going as planned and that there is no need to set a deadline for an end to the campaign. A direct result of Russia tightening access to their oil supply is Germany's Uniper being in discussions about a potential government rescue. With financial repercussions of declining Russian gas supplies echoing around Europe, pushing shares in the energy giant down. Uniper chief executive Klaus Dieter Maulbach said the talks entailed possible guarantees, raising credit facilities, or even the state taking a share of Uniper's equity. The suspected driver of a truck found abandoned in Texas with dozens of bodies inside has been charged with migrant smuggling, resulting in death. 53 people died in the tragedy, many from heat stroke and dehydration, after being shut inside the truck in blistering heat without any water, acting as the deadliest human trafficking incident since 2016. Homero Zamorano was found posing as a migrant in a bush near the lorry in San Antonio and arrested by police. An additional suspect was arrested on conspiracy charges. The United States Justice Department announced that the two men could face a maximum sentence of life in prison or possibly the death penalty if convicted. Prominent Nigerian Senator Ike Ekwuramadu has appeared in court in London for a second time, charged with arranging to bring a child to the UK for organ donation. Part of the alleged offense was committed abroad, and as a result, the consent of the Attorney General is required for the case to continue. He will next appear at Westminster Magistrates Court on July 7th. Over in China, Hong Kong celebrated a victory. When Chinese President Xi and his wife Peng Liyuan exited a high-speed train while wearing masks, they were met by kids waving flowers and Chinese and Hong Kong flags. Authorities organized a lion dance celebration while a police band played. In a brief speech, President Xi praised the city, saying Hong Kong has withstood severe tests again and again, overcoming challenges one by one, and adding with pride, he said, "After the wind and rain, Hong Kong has risen from the ashes." Today in the Philippines, the newly elected Ferdinand Marcos was sworn into his presidency and promised to strive for unity and a better future while praising his late father's legacy. Marcos is the son of the Philippine ruler overthrown in a famous uprising 36 years ago. His presidency marks his affluent family's decades-long quest to regain the presidency and transform its image after it was driven out. Today, under the strain of Tokyo's hottest June since records started getting marked, Japan's electricity grid creaked. Luckily, an electrical shortage that may have left tens of millions without power was barely averted, and officials were getting ready to withdraw warnings. Today marks the 6th day of the cumulus temperatures that began after an early ending to Tokyo's rainy season. In Sudan, as protesters crowded in central Khartoum despite heavy security and a communications blackout to rally against the military leadership that seized power 8 months ago, witnesses claimed that security forces fired tear gas and water cannons as they tried to prevent swelling crowds from marching toward the presidential palace. Medics say that 4 protesters were killed as a result. The actions taken come as a shock to many. Today, following the collapse of Prime Minister Naftali Bennett's ruling coalition, Israeli lawmakers voted in agreement that the Israeli parliament should dissolve. Bennett is expected to step down and have his coalition partner, Foreign Minister Yair Lapid, run the government during what is anticipated as a tense election battle with opposition leader and ex-premier Benjamin Netanyahu. After receiving his conviction in September of last year, 55-year-old United States singer R. Kelly has been sentenced to 30 years in prison for using his celebrity status to sexually abuse children and women. During his sentencing, the judge told him that he had an indifference to human suffering. Lawyers for the singer said he will appeal. More than 60 years after Patrice Lumumba's murder, a ceremony is being staged in the Democratic Republic of the Congo to bury the gold-crowned tooth of the nation's freedom hero. Her tooth is the only part of the body that exists after her remains were dissolved in acid. In front of Belgian dignitaries, including King Boudewijn, Lumumba blasted Belgium in a famous speech on the country's Independence Day in 1960, claiming that the Congolese had been held in humiliating servitude. The Congo views him as a barrier to its efforts to maintain influence as well as hold on to important economic interests. Today marks 62 years since the former colonial power Belgium relinquished control of the vast country. We're now going to take it over to Jean-Louis, who's going to share what's going on in the sports world.
It is June 30th, 2022, and you're kicking it with Jean-Louis of Free Wave TV. And from the States to across the pond, here are your sports stories of today. Second round of the Wimbledon Open is off and rocking. While currently going on at the time of the recording, the storylines are already in full swing. The young British prodigy Emma Raducanu faced another early round exit, losing to France's Carolina Garcia in consecutive 6-3 efforts. Raducanu continues her slump since September's U.S. Open win. Now on the men's end, two notable stars are Rafael Nadal and Novak Djokovic, who are still very much in it. As yesterday saw Novak Djokovic advance past the second round in a straight set victory over Thanasi Kokkanis, the third round matchup will be against fellow Serbian Miomir Kecmanovic tomorrow. As for Nadal, his second round matchup is today against Lithuanian star Rikardas Berankis. At the time of recording, the matchup has yet to commence, but shall start soon at a 10 a.m. start. What's going on now is the final day of England-South Africa's women's test matchup, where a rain delay has halted its end. But South Africa is left with a slight lead currently with a 284 out in the second inning with 140 to 5 wickets. Later on in the day, we'll have some women's football action, as at noon, Switzerland goes toe-to-toe with England. The rest of the games from today will emanate from the MLS, where we'd see the NYC Red Bulls face Atlanta United and Charlotte FC facing Austin FC. Now off the field, a host of transfers from different stars from the Champions and Premier League has emanated. Newcastle United notched a deal with 22-year-old defender Sven Botman to the tune of $32 million, with further $2.5 million in add-ons. Brazilian international star Richarlison will sign on with Tottenham with a price tag reportedly worth over $50 million pending a past physical. And the young left-back sensation Alexandro Benbari signs on to Celtic for a reported 5-year contract after being capped by the under-23 level team, scoring 5 goals in 88 appearances for the Atletico Lanús. In the States, transactions are also running rampant, as the NBA has just been a day away from the start of free agency. Stars such as Bradley Beal, James Harden, and NBA champion Bobby Portis Jr. have all declined their player options with their respective teams, looking for a bigger payday in one respect or a pay cut in a contender in another. Los Angeles Laker guard Russ Westbrook picks up his $47 million option, leaving him along with Finals MVP Stephen Curry as the richest contract in the league. Now from one bag to another, Mavericks guard Jalen Brunson, who enters unrestricted free agency, is pegged to get a contract worth $110 million for over 4 years. The Villanova star will meet with his current team, the Miami Heat, who is a late addition to the race, and the New York Knicks, a team that not only has hired his pops, ex-star Rick Brunson, to the staff, but also moved veterans such as Nerlens Noel, Alec Burks, and Kemba Walker to clear up cap space for Brunson. It possibly could have been a bigger deal for the Knicks, as they were linked to All-Star star DeJounte Murray until last night a blockbuster deal happened. Murray is headed to the Atlanta Hawks, joining Trae Young in a trade involving Danilo Gallinari and draft compensation. It's cold out here for the Knicks. The Wizards also cleared up some cap space for the potential re-signing for Bradley Beal as they trade KCP and journeyman Ish Smith to the Nuggets for Monte Morris and Will Barton. Welcome to the offseason, folks. And lastly, we head back to the soccer field, where defender Carson Pickett has made history. In last night's matchup versus Colombia, the 28-year-old is the first person in history to compete with a limb deficiency. The star was born without a left hand and a forearm. Now, despite it, she's made waves playing for the North Carolina Courage in the NWSL. When asked about her appearance leading up to the day, the U.S. coach said that she did very well, instilling confidence that she will not only fill in, but overproduce. It's truly a monumental time in sports history for all walks of life. And today, it shows. That's all the news I got for you today. Once again, this is Jean-Louis, this is Free Wave, and that's your news. Take care, folks.
That's all we have for today. For more detailed news, you can visit our website, www.freewavetv.com. On behalf of all of us here at Free Wave TV, thanks for watching, and we'll see you at our next newscast next week.